That's a great shot. No, wait, I'm bribing you. What's the big idea? I choose the mom over love. Over love. I'm choosing mom. I'm choosing mom over love. Alright, can you help me a little bit? Over love.
Hey, listeners, and a special hey, hi, and hello to all you patrons out there. Remember, the Sci-Fi Side podcast is sponsored by listeners like you. And for $1, $2, $5 a month, you can support the Wallen family and all of our various projects and endeavors. I want to shout out some patrons right here, right now. Shout out to Melissa Taylor, Tina Dealhore, Aja Upshire, Ashley Markham Swindle, Bella Joseph, Ida Andarge, Janae Hunter, Rach the Great, Bailey Thomas Desiree, Grace Newswanger, Nikesha Williams, Ashley, Charlotte Foster, Jamie Simone, Sharonda Gray, and Morgan Z. Baby, we love to see y'all. We're still shouting out patrons from April, y'all, so we're going to eventually get through all of those, but we appreciate all of y'all's support. Now, Oh yeah. Sorry. You can find the link to the Patreon in the episode notes. Okay. So if you're using, Apple Podcasts or Spotify, just scroll on down. Wherever you listen to podcasts, you can just scroll on down to those notes and they will be right there. Now let's get started with the show. Welcome to the Sci-Fi Sci under the Believe Podcast Network. It is indeed a podcast about Black science fiction and Black fantasy and staying on the same page as a family. Speaking of family, if you hear some sucking sounds in the background, that is me bottle feeding Wild.
Or me.
Why would it be you?
I like to suck on you.
But you're not currently sucking on me. So
But
I think I would like the listeners to know that they're not listening to fellatio during this show. That is wild. We are bribing her.
I just sucked your weenus.
You just, okay, I'm going to let you talk. You want to finish intro on the show?
I can never top you.
Okay, so can I finish without you making sex jokes? Can I just intro the damn show? What if it's people's first time listening to this show? They're going to be like, what is happening? Today, for episode 95, we'll be discussing the film Nope, directed by who? Jordan Peele. We love to see it. This is Jordan Peele's third movie, I want to say, because we're going to do a full series on, the Jordan Peele cinematic universe. But we watched Nope. It just dropped this weekend. It's starring Daniel Kaluuya, Keke Palmer, Stephen Yeun. So, before we get into that, hopefully you saw Nope. There will be spoilers throughout the episode. Before we get into that, Ben, how you doing, baby?
I'm doing fantastic.
Why don't you tell people what time you came home last night?
11:30.
What time did you leave last night?
So I went and played basketball around 3:30 for about 3 hours, and then I was hanging out with a friend who is your friend's fiance. So we played basketball, then we went and got some food, and it was men talking about their feelings.
Which is great. Just send one text saying, hey, just finished basketball, headed to the bar. Just one text. Now that we
didn't go to a bar. We went to a brewery. We got food. I also
Same
brought
thing,
you,
except for just more depressing.
But this one had food, and I brought you back that sandwich.
Yeah, you can keep your tired sandwich. You send me a text. I want a text message. Why do you think you'd lose track of time? Why don't we just get our marital issues out right now?
Oh, because I live in the present, and I'm not so concerned with, the future. And yeah, I'm a person of the present, and I'm not constantly thinking like this or that or that. And when you're constantly concerned, and in my mind, I was like, hey, listen, Amber knows that I'm in Athens. I didn't go anywhere. Athens is a very small town. And I was like, if she needs me, she'll call me, which you did. I called you and said, you're not here. I'm going to get a ride home. I was like, okay. What I didn't realize is what I was supposed to say was, don't get a ride home.
I had to get a ride home with the baby without the car seat.
You didn't have to. I was 10 minutes away. But what I should have picked up on was, oh, you know what? Don't get a ride home. I'll come and pick you up. But it seemed, I got the impression oh, no, you're good. You're hanging out.
I'm cool with you hanging out. I would like just a courtesy text, because let's say in some crazy world, you went missing. I would have said, detective, he's in the basketball courts. And then they're like, well, he's not here. Where did he go after that? I have no clue.
Well, I did share my location on my phone. So you're talking
you
about
did
like,
not.
yeah, my location is always shared with you. But you're saying maybe if, like if I got, abducted by aliens or something
Correct.
like that.
Yes. If you got abducted by aliens, I wouldn't even know where to start, where the abduction spot was. So all I'm saying, and I think all that the listeners are saying, is that you have a 3-month-old and an incredibly successful wife. You think you'd just send a text message saying, "Hey, I'm going to be gone for maybe 10 hours, and this is where I am." That's it.
Yeah, totally. I will make sure that I tell you when I'm gone for 10 hours next time.
Because if I was gone that long, you'd be like, "What's up? Like, you coming home soon?"
Yeah, no, I would have reached out to you. You didn't reach out to me in the same way that I would have reached out to you.
Well, you wouldn't have to, because when I go out, I'm like, having fun with the girls, headed over here.
Yeah, you're pretty good at communicating. For me, again, I'm someone who lives more in the present. So there's a benefit and there's a non-benefit to that.
Okay, so I don't live in the present because I want to clearly iterate to you where I am and that I'm safe. So I'm not present because I'm giving you courtesy updates.
Yeah, I see your point now.
I think you should say, Amber, I love you. I'm lucky to be with you. I would be nothing without you. As the Cater to You song would say, my life would be purposeless without you. That's what you need to say to me right now. Instead of chewing on that biscotti cookie. Anyway, yeah, I'm over it as you can see.
I'm glad it took you about sleeping to get over it.
You know I don't stay mad for long.
Yeah, you don't.
Like, keep it, like, I know everybody on the internet thinks I'm just like this raging cunt. But, wild burp, like right as I said that. But I think I stay mad at you. I mean, the most I've probably ever stayed mad at you is like an hour. But the typical turnaround time is like 5 to 10 minutes. I'm like, I love him. Who cares? God, your nose hairs are long. That is something to look at.
Talking about facial features that people don't like, Amber and I went to this restaurant.
God. You tell it.
And this manic server comes up. It's like, your baby's so cute. And, Wild's sleeping. And she's like, oh, what color eyes does she have? You're like, oh, brown eyes. She's like, oh.
What a bummer.
What a bummer.
I wish they were blue.
And at this point,
bitch, get the waters, okay? that's
I'm
what
sitting
I wanted
here
to say.
with your mom who has brown eyes. You has beautiful brown eyes. Both of y'all have beautiful brown eyes. And I'm like, bitch, have you ever heard the song My Brown Eyed Girl? Like, get out of here.
Or it's just like, let's say you did think that. Do you think that now we want to be served by you because you're disappointed in my child's eye color? I don't even know you.
Yeah. And you know what was more offensive, though? Her tattoos. Her tattoos were so offensive.
Needless to say, we did not eat there. Immediately, I was like, Mom, you hate sushi, right? Mom was like, no, I can make it work. I was like,
no, we're
Mom,
out of here.
you hate sushi. Why are we even here?
Wink,
and she was
wink.
like, yeah, I don't like sushi. And so we just immediately left. I mean, even before she made the comment about hating my child's eye color, again, she just met us. Or I guess my eye color was the dig there. She was complaining about her last table. So I'm like, she was like, my last table gave me a bad review because here's the thing. I didn't get to attend to them because somebody made a fake Instagram of my boyfriend, right? So I had to immediately call him. I was like,
no prompting. She just gave this to us.
I am not paying to hear your problems. Like, I can't do that, friend. Like, I will listen to people after a certain point. Like, if we have built some trust and you've been a great server and then you finally say, like, honestly, today's been a really rough day for me, so I appreciate y'all's energy. Like that's different, but for us to be like, hi, and she's like, well, here's what happened. I'm like, wait, what? Like, it was like the middle of an improv scene. I was like, why are you talking to us about... Yeah. And I'm sorry, nobody made a fake Instagram of your boyfriend. Just stop.
Yeah.
Right?
And
maybe somebody did, but...
I honestly don't care. And I got real quiet because, Amber, there are moments where I am very rude and disrespectful to people when I feel they're being rude or disrespectful to me. So I was...
Ben will let your ass have it.
I was going to say something like, hey, can you stop talking? And like, what you're saying is actually pretty racist. And I was going to say something, but Amber gets like... you get a little uncomfortable when I'm confrontational sometimes.
Well, especially just somebody who's about to serve us food.
Yeah, exactly. You don't want to do that.
Like, you don't want to piss
I was
off
gonna
the
be
kitchen
like,
staff.
I was gonna be like, well, we're leaving right now, and so I got and usually I'm super chatty with waiters and waitresses. Like I am
too much.
Yeah.
Like, what are your local brews? Because fossil fuels are like that's
Or-
Ben's whole shtick every time we
like,
go out to eat.
Yeah, I'm like that Portlandia episode where they try to find the most natural kind of food, and they go from one restaurant to another. Oh, that's sort of me. I'm very talkative, and I like to know like where did this coffee come from, or like is this dessert made in house or out
Yeah,
house?
is this your
or,
local brew? And they're like, it's just Starbucks, man.
It's
like,
Sam's Club.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, well, I'm not getting it. I tend to be talkative, and so Amber just immediately picked up on my energy. It's nice to be able to hang out with someone who can feel my energy.
Yeah, you're not a good room reader, but you have so many strengths that like I was talking to the girls yesterday because while Ben was hanging out all day, which honestly isn't that big of a deal, I was hanging out with some of my childhood friends and they were all just talking about how much they love you and I got to this point in our relationship where people were like, "Oh, is Ben coming?" And I was like, "Excuse him, what?" Like, I am the life of the party.
I'm the main course.
I'm the main attraction, but I'm kind of not, and I love that. I love that I can, because I've dated guys in the past that don't want to be social at events, and which is hard because I'm very social. So it's really fun, like bringing you around all of my friends and family, and you kind of just like go and talk to them. Like I have to look for you at the end of any party. I'm talking about like with close childhood friends of mine. I'm like, "Where's Ben?" They're like, "Oh, he's in the back talking to my uncle so and so." Like, you just go. I love it.
Any party with you is an excuse to get away from you. Like going to any party with you is an excuse to not have to talk to you because you can talk to other people. It's a break. It's like a break from you with you. Going to a party with you.
It's kind of like that for me too, actually. We should keep going to parties.
People should have breaks with the people that they're having sex with, or like they live in close proximity
Why
with.
am I just the person you have sex with? Did you just
both.
hear yourself?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you're not just the person. You're like my best friend. I live with you. You're my roommate. But sometimes you do need breaks from this.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, you need breaks. You absolutely need breaks. Talking about breaks, we are in your grandma's home.
The other day, remember my friend asking about like, "Oh my God, how is she?" I was like, "Well, she died.
She died.
September 2022. So she's not doing great." My friend was like, "Sorry." I was like, "No, it's fine." She was cool.
Yeah. But we're here because we want to give your parents their house back.
Yeah,
And
speaking of breaks, right?
How is it like being in the house that your grandma collapsed and died in? Is that like weird for you?
God.
Like I'm actually curious.
You asked it in a funky way. It's not weird for me at all, actually, because that was kind of one isolated event, and she lived like a pretty full, like curmudgeon life in this house. So it kind of reminds me of like her doing lottery ticket scratch offs in the kitchen table and us watching like Judge Judy in the living room and us having Christmas in this room.
Yeah,
so there were so many lively moments that like, I mean, I'm happy that she was able to like pass in a home that she had made for herself that was very comfortable for her. So that's kind of how I've made peace with it. And I think also that my dad loves that we stay here and bring it to life because there's this sense of like, when someone dies, just their house is sort of abandoned. And so I think she would really love like, oh my God, they're like using my house to like continue their lives and like continue their interests and passions. And like just looking and seeing that backyard, I just remember, I'm like, oh my God, me and Aaron used to like play tag out here and jump on this trampoline it's no longer out there. So it's more like nostalgia and joy than it is like, oh, she's not here.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
I wrote a list of projects that I'm going to do to sort of bring this house to life.
We're going to make a little fire pit in the back.
Yeah, we're going to do a fire pit. We're going to replace some of the screens. There's like this old abandoned like playhouse that needs to be torn down. It's got hornet's nest, and there's some old furniture that it's just not being used. We're going to donate it. So it's cool to like live in this space and sort of bring it even more life and
And like Wild never met her, but she can sort
that-
of like walk the space she walks.
That makes me so sad. Last night we're at this brewery, and we're eating outside, and we're talking. So I was sort of like treating this friend because he's about to get married. It's very stressful when you're about
to my friends.
To
so
your friend.
Don't get fresh.
Yeah, and it's very, and I understood because it's very stressful. Sort of planning a wedding, so I was like, I did not hate. So I was like, I'm gonna treat you. Everything is, and everything's on me. So we're getting food, but they sort of closed and they kept the bar open. So I would go and get some beers, and there was this older woman, maybe like in her mid 60s or something. She's sitting at the bar, and this is Athens, Georgia. She's very talkative. She's trying to talk with me, and I'm like, I just want my beer to get out and continue talking with my friend. But at one point, I could see her teeth, and her voice was like a raspy smoker voice.
Very
and
my
her
grandma
teeth
and
was,
yours.
Yes, and her teeth were just very blackened from smoke, and it was, and I was thinking like, you can't blame her for that because based on her age, this woman probably grew up with the Marlboro cartoon camel. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like she was advertised at a young age. And it makes me sad thinking about your grandma who was a chain smoker, my grandma as well. They died in their early 70s and they just took years off their life. My grandma started smoking when she was 8 years old, right? Because the marketing was focused towards children at this age, and it makes me so angry, right?
I'd be hard pressed to find a grandma who didn't smoke.
Yeah.
Like, who did you marry? What's your story? Because also it was sort of this, I don't know. I think if I was my grandma's age, I would have smoked too. I'm forced to not forced, but like the only way I can get a decent job is to marry a man and he has a stable income and he's like cheating on me and hitting on me. Yeah, I need a fucking cigarette.
Your grandma had a hard life,
Yeah, but all of our grandmas, I mean, like you said,
my grandma as well.
Women couldn't even get a credit card until like the 70s.
Yeah.
So you're sitting here having to play June Cleaver, happy wife, feminine mystique to this guy, and you're just like, ugh. I mean, I'm not just trying to shit on my grandpa, but at one point, my grandpa had a kid within 7 days of my dad being born. So my grandma and another lady, my grandma who was married to my grandpa,
and they were in
another lady,
they were in a polyamorous
they were not
relationship.
You're having babies on me, and we're both in the hospital at the same time. Put a condom on. You're just embarrassing me out here.
Yeah.
And I can't really divorce you because where am I going to work? How am I going to keep the lights on? So I need a pack of Marlboro Reds. So that's what they did. Anywho, we did see the movie Nope. But before we get into that, Ben, we got some podcast reviews. For those of you who are like, girl, I ain't give you no money on the Patreon. I'm broke. That's cool. But what you can't do if you do love the show and love the content is write an Apple Podcast review. I'm looking at all 4 cameras here. Apple Podcast review. And here is one from Busy Love 2013.
Yeah, Busy Loves writes, great podcast. I don't even watch or read sci-fi. Yes, this is who the podcast is for. Sci-fi nerds and sci-fi non-nerds. Busy Love writes, I was first introduced to this adorable couple and their baby Wiggles through IG. I discovered they had a podcast and started listening. They are both wicked smart, witty, and funny. I enjoyed their film and book recaps sprinkled in with stories from their everyday lives. This is one of my top 4 podcasts. Holy shit, that's awesome.
That is awesome.
Thank you.
I don't think we are one of my top 4 podcasts. So that's a huge compliment. Think about all the podcasts you love to listen to, because Ben likes heavy sci-fi, no games, no comedy, no anecdotes, just about the texts and movies, kind of sci-fi podcasts, right, Ben?
Yeah, well, I was thinking, that just made me think of Brett Spiner, who plays Data. Brent Spiner, he says he doesn't watch any of his episodes on Star Trek. I mean, this is one of the most classic Star Trek characters. So it just makes me think people who make their own sort of content or art.
It's like people who don't listen, like the sound of their own voices and things like that.
Yeah, I think this is another level, though, of a famous actor not even watching his own films or his own TV show is so funny. And when I was listening to interviews, I don't listen to it because I lived it. Right.
I love that. And You remember one time we were taking some friends, like Ben was like the DD for a night, and we got in the car, and you know how you like immediately plug up your phone to the charger, the Bluetooth or whatever, and immediately what starts playing is our podcast, right? So I'm giving Ben a second because he's like fumbling with like the keys and the seatbelts and getting everybody in safely. But maybe like 5 to 10 minutes into the trip, a friend of yours was like, "Are y'all seriously going to make us listen to y'all's podcast the entire ride?"
Absolutely. Yes, Erica. Yes, Erica.
Erica was like, "Turn off y'all's podcast." I cannot. I was like, "Yeah, this looks so pretentious and vain." Ben's like, "No, but I'm listening to it for quality and whatever." She's like, "We are not listening to your podcast." Like my closest friends do not, for the most part, listen to the content, which I love because they're like not caught up in like trying to argue with people in the comments or whatever. But like I have one very close friend of mine. She's like, "Amber, you know I don't watch any of this shit that you create. Like I'm not doing that. I'm not a fan.
So
I don't care."
she doesn't support us.
She doesn't support. She's like,
us.
"I'm not doing that. Like I know you in real life. I have your phone number. There is no reason for me to watch your TikTok. I know that you're a shit show." And I cannot say I love that more than anything. I really do. Anyway, we watched Nope, right, Ben?
Yeah. Nope is about a brother and a sister. Brother is played by Daniel Kaluuya. O.J. Haywood is his character in the film, and his sister Keke Palmer. Her name is Emerald Haywood, and they run a horse ranch outside of Hollywood, outside of L.A., and their horses are used in films and such. And their father, who is played by the wonderful Keith David, we love Keith David, Tales from the Hood, and
several things,
yeah. I think Tales from the Hood is something we covered here. Did we cover?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
So Keith David is fantastic in here, and he sort of built this dynasty of like training horses, and something has started showing up in the sky, and
behind a
cloud, and it's a UFO, and things are happening that are really weird. And meanwhile, there's this guy Ricky, who's played by Stephen Yeun, who is trying to buy their horse ranch, and so there's this neighborhood drama mixed with a UFO film. So the film, by the way, spoilers for everything. But the film starts with, I love the start of this film, but it starts with things falling from the sky. And I was sort of thinking, like, why is things falling from the sky so scary? Like, for example, in The Haunting of Hill House, rocks fall from the sky. And in the Bible, you have, fire and brimstone falling from the sky. You have this sense of dread when you put weird things falling from the sky. And sometimes good things fall from the sky, like manna from heaven. And so, what is this? There's this whole trope of that the sky is this place of like judgment and terror. Like, have you ever had something like fall out of the sky and hit you?
Okay, I'm laughing because not me, but somebody else. And can I tell a quick story time?
Yeah, please.
Where should I look to tell this story? First of all, to not to cut you off, I thought the opening scene was the monkey destroying the set.
Oh, you're right. Yes, sorry.
So if you're watching this on YouTube, you can see my face being like, I'm gonna let you finish, but Beyonce had the best album of all time.
Yes.
But we'll go back to that. That's neither here nor there. I do have a Falling from the Sky story.
That was so weird.
Story time. So I'm gonna look at this camera. My father used to be my softball coach in 6th grade or 6th, 7th, 8th grade-ish. I can't remember the exact year, but he coached, the girls' softball rec club. And my father, he is pretty mean. So when you my dad, he's getting nicer because he's a grandparent, but you've seen his wrath once or twice, and you're like, interesting. So my father, he takes everything very seriously, and he's just really...
He's competitive.
He's very competitive. Very competitive. And so, which would be fine if you weren't coaching like 6th and 7th grade girls, right? So I obviously am used to my dad, cussing us out and stuff. And like, I literally remember one time, like, this fly ball was coming down to this girl in the outfield. And for whatever reason, she just like moved to the side to the last minute. And my dad yelled out loud, "It's like the ground moved from beneath her." I was like, Dad, like, you don't have to be an asshole about it. Like, she already feels bad that she dropped the ball. But like, he would just do this commentary that was just asshole commentary. So one time he had just bitched me out for like striking out or something. And he was so heated about it. I think the game was over and he was cussing me out or one of the other girls. It was just ridiculous. I think if this happened now, somebody would definitely called like,
or they would have filmed it. This would have
they
been
would
on
have filmed
World
it. Would have went
Star.
viral. He would have lost his job.
Yeah,
100%.
Oh, God.
Shout out if your parent ever coached you on a competitive sport. So my dad had just bitched me out or some other girl, and then my dad walked away. He's like, damn it. So he walks away, and for whatever reason, no, not for whatever reason, a foul ball from another game gets hit into the air, and everybody's yelling like, heads up, heads up. But my dad was still mad in his own fury that he didn't hear it, right?
That's judgment.
So everybody's yelling like, heads up, heads up. And he doesn't hear it. And this ball hits him like right in the chest or belly. Like it didn't hit his head, but the angle it was coming at like hit him right in the chest. And then he falls out and makes a big scene. And I shit you not, I'm thinking I'm Matilda at this point because I'm like, like serves you right, old timer. Like it was the sweetest revenge ever. And he's getting up, he's so mad. He's like, why didn't anybody call it? Why didn't anybody say foul ball, foul ball? Everybody was like, we said it. Like you weren't listening. Like, and then he needed to go get an ice pack, and it was a whole big thing. And I was just like hysterically laughing with my teammates. They were like, yo, daddy got hit. Like that's what he get. Like just any insult that he had ever hurled at us could have been used for him in that moment. Like, keep your eye on the ball. Like, we were all just like laughing hysterically. So yes, that is my experience with something falling from the sky. You got a story for me?
For judgment falling from the sky. No, I think there's this idea that God sits up in the sky, you know, and Zeus sits up in the sky. All gods come from the sky. And this idea, a modern example, right, of judgment coming from the sky is UFOs, right?
Yeah.
Things or UAPs.
Now let's back up. The opening
Yes,
scene,
thank you.
which Jordan Peele always kind of does some sort of, like, I really like his signature style. I feel like at this point you could play a Jordan Peele movie and I would know based on how he edits things. Because we have editing techniques that people are like, I know that Amber edited this versus whatever. You know, because I'm just as good as Jordan Peele, obviously. But he gives you like, he puts you in the middle of a scene and then calls back to that scene much later. Like in Get Out, we saw that when, like, if you haven't seen Get Out, when Lakeith Stanfield was like thrown in the trunk and then the scene starts.
Yeah.
So the very beginning scene is this monkey who is a performing monkey. He's on TV sitcoms and he's trapped, like he's something in him like snapped or something. He had his fill. And so he's like pounding this dead girl's body, like he's attacked her. I don't know if she's dead, but
She's
he's
not
knocked
dead.
her unconscious. There's blood all over the set, so you're just immediately like, ooh, okay, this has something to do with animals. And then we open to the horse scene where things start falling from the sky.
Yeah. That, by the way, that sort of sets up the theme for the whole rest of the movie, which is about animal exploitation.
Yeah.
Which it sort of refers back to. And the main character that one of the main characters, Ricky, runs this park, and he was actually a little kid on this scene where this chimpanzee went absolutely ape shit, right?
Literally, right.
Literally, you know,
See what
even
you
though,
did
so, and ends up beating people to a pulp, and that he sort of loses his childhood star, and now he is trying to, you know, get back into the entertainment industry.
Yeah, in the form of like basically like a sideshow rodeo type thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, in the beginning scene where things are falling from the sky, they're falling so hard and aggressively that a nickel falls from the sky and like goes right through his dad's eye.
Yeah.
And essentially kills, like he's rushing to the hospital. There's blood coming out of the front seat. Daniel Kaluuya's character, OJ, he's like Lil OJ. Rushing to the hospital, and so his dad dies in that opening scene from some random thing that fell from the sky.
And they call it like a plane, like a prop plane that was flying over, and
yeah, because
some things had fallen. Yeah, so you know, some keys, quarters, other knickknacks had fallen out. But this is a UFO film, and it made me think of the history of UFOs, where before I think like in the 1950s or so, UFOs or alien abduction stories were all about enlightenment. Like an alien abducts you and you get enlightened, and it's this really beautiful experience. But then Betty and Barney Hill, which was an interracial couple, Barney worked for the NCAAP. This was up in New Hampshire.
NAACP.
Thank
racist.
you. NCAA.
No. N.
National Collegiate Association.
AACP.
NAACP, sorry. I'm talking really quickly, and I'm racist.
Yeah.
But they have this alien abduction, and it's horrific. And that actually changes the narrative. So UFOs go from these like friendly, like aliens coming here to like support us to now, no, aliens are coming here to fucking kill us. And I think I just, first of all, I don't believe in UFOs, but do you actually believe
Heck yeah.
Like aliens
One
are
of the
here
first
watching
movies,
us or something?
I don't know if, I don't think they look like, I believe that there is life on other planets. Like there has to be.
But are they sending like probes here to check us out, or?
It might not be a probe, but I feel like some of them can like fly from planet to planet and just be like, oh, okay. Like it might not be as regimented as like a plane in the sky, but I feel like something's out there and something has seen us more than one time for sure. Or even if they had the technology to like zoom in on Earth or something, like it might not necessarily be like a UFO, but how can you watch all of this stuff? Like you love Star Wars, Star Wars is a bad example. You love Star Trek and not believe that there's like life on another planet.
Possibly, but why hasn't that life? Why haven't we been able to commune with that life? I mean, it's probably
maybe
so
when
far
Earth
out.
is like
They
collapsed, that
call
will
it,
happen.
Yeah, they call it the Great Silence. The fact that there isn't life everywhere, like why is that the case? And there's a bunch of different predictions of why that. The explanations. One of the explanations is that all living organisms sort of kill themselves or destroy themselves before they develop the technology to, travel interstellar, which sounds like humans, like we might destroy ourselves before we develop that.
Oh, we will. What was the first like UFO or alien movie that you saw? Was it Alien?
Probably like Independence Day.
I was just thinking about that because that definitely rooted the seed of like, oh, if we find life on another planet, they're bad.
Yeah,
like you remember that one
malicious.
guy who was like, I was basically raped by the aliens. Like they sexually abused me or whatever.
And then he gets his revenge at the end. Remember, he flies the plane up in there.
Well, they do experiments on us, which makes sense. We would do the same thing with them.
So we have UFOs, we have animal exploitation.
Mm-hmm. Because we essentially learn in the film that the alien operates like an animal. That's where the two worlds.
So
collide.
this is the invert. This is how Jordan Peele often like messes with tropes, and so he's playing with the UFO trope that this UFO is itself the organism, which I thought was so
that's cool.
like exciting, and I was like
you don't open it and something like and the little ramp comes down and somebody walks off. No.
This is a monster. This is a beast. And
I love that. Very Binti vibes. Remember when we read Binti and like the ship was alive?
Yeah. No, yeah. That's exactly what this is. It's a living ship, but this living ship requires food and it sucks up horses, humans. That's how it consumes. Yes. And now you're dealing with the rest of the film once they discover this. OJ Haywood and his sister Emerald discover this. They spend the rest of the film trying to defeat this thing, and
like clog it up and
But what I found so like disturbing is that their ranch is going under, and what we learn is that Ricky has been buying their horses and knowingly feeding this monster to like create a show to get his fame back. And I was like, why? Like he knows he had an experience with an untamed beast, this chimpanzee in the beginning of the film that literally was triggered and started beating up people and hurting them. Like literally we find out that his childhood co-star was beaten so badly, her face is completely deformed.
Yeah, no, she's like a paraplegic. Yeah.
Almost looking like like a mummy. Her face looks like a mummy that you would see. And I keep on thinking about how we think that we understand animals. We think that they're not alien to us. But I think what this film does is it makes a direct correlation between this chimpanzee and this UFO that is a living organism. And it makes me think that,
you can only behave for so long based on the training that we've given it, or we're underestimating it sometimes, or getting too friendly with it.
Or you just don't know what's going to trigger it.
Right.
And it was these balloons that started popping that made the chimpanzee lose itself.
There's also the scene at the very beginning where, like Ben said, the Haywood family, they have like Hollywood horses. So this horse is in a scene in the very beginning, one of their horses, and the horse gets triggered by looking at itself in a mirror, and then it what is it called? Back kicks or whatever.
Yeah. I could see its mirror and it was triggered. Yep.
And that's definitely happened to me at a petting zoo before. I got back kicked by a camel when I was really young. And these trainers, you don't remember that? I told you about that.
No, you
didn't. It's like a little petting zoo.
You got kicked by a camel?
Yes.
There's not a lot of people who can say that.
It was like a Girl Scout trip, and I don't know, maybe I got too close to it or whatever, but it literally kicked back up. And I don't think I was directly hoofed to the head, but I was on the back end of it, so its leg hit me, and then I you know me, I'm of the theater, so I immediately go down. I'm like, oh my God, but it was enough to scare. It was kind of liken it to the scene with the horse at the beginning of Nope and the makeup lady. But if she would have went down, it's like I didn't get kicked directly, but I got spooked enough to
a horse can kill you.
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
So we and I remember waking up at home. I'm not sure what the interplay was between getting me from the petting zoo, but I was just in such I was so scared of this animal. I didn't tell you about that.
No.
On the Girl Scout trip.
No, that's okay. This is why we do this podcast.
Why we have this podcast. So an animal anytime could just, or it's like that orca whale that drowned the trainer because it saw her ponytail and thought it was a game or whatever.
Yeah.
That I think that was less vicious, but you just never know. That might have triggered that whale.
That whale literally scalped a trainer. But also, Gucci. I love Gucci, right? But at the same time, he is a dog, and we think we understand dogs, and for the most part we do. But people will say, is Gucci friendly? I'm like, yeah. It's like, has he bitten anybody? And I'll be like, well, not yet. You just don't know if you trigger a dog.
Gets triggered,
what triggers a dog, and there are things, yes, that we can figure out. But it makes me think that sometimes we're so obsessed with finding life from outer space that we have life here that we can communicate. And it makes me think of that Ted Chiang story, The Great Silence, where he writes about parrots. Literally, parrots can communicate. And the story is told from the perspective of the parrots, and they're writing a letter to humans being like, we wanted to talk to you, but you wouldn't talk to us back. And I think this film is sort of having that conversation, listen, we don't know our own organisms as well as we think we do. And we should spend time focusing on learning how to treat them, because ultimately what we learn is that OJ
has learned how to treat them, and he has learned he has triggers. Back up, yep. He
learns how to essentially fight this monster, and one of the things he does is eye contact with this beast triggers it. It doesn't like eating certain kinds of things, and it's sort of, I like when you have a monster that can actually be defeated, and then by the end they do defeat it. I don't know. What do you think about us spending energy, time, interstellar travel when we should maybe spending more time here, learning our animals here? Do you feel like you understand Gucci?
I feel like I understand him to. He just looked over here at me. I feel like I understand him to a point, but I definitely, especially as he's aging and changing, I felt like I really understood Gucci, and then the pandemic hit, and it was me and him in the house all day long. So going back to the dog park was him. Going back to the dog park for him was very scary. He's like, why are all these people around? Or I understand Gucci, but then if it's the 4th of July and fireworks are going off, he gets triggered. So I'm more aware of I think I'm more aware of the harm that he could cause, and so I'm very conscious of that. But I do know lots of people who are like, yeah, my dog's friendly. I'm like, your dog is the one out here attacking other dogs and humping other dogs, and like you're just claiming that it's so friendly. So I definitely like understand and have seen when people are like just naive about their pets.
Also,
I've been naive about Gucci, definitely.
Also, when parents are naive about their children. Oof. Didn't you show me that video about the Call of Duty player threatened to use his mom's gun to shoot up 7 people, and then the mom just was standing there like defending him.
He's a boy. He's 15. It's like no, like all of like the school shooters in the past year have been like he fits the profile. He's like, bitch.
We don't know, and the cops were being so nice to this white woman and her white son.
They were being firm with her. I'll give them that. But yeah, I think. Well, let's back up a little bit. What were your first impressions of the movie as a whole?
I thought it was, I thought the connection of animal exploitation and the way Jordan Peele interweaves like these very personal stories. For example, Ricky's story of being this great childhood star who was in a sitcom that basically destroys his career, right? He can't do anything else after this chimpanzee kills some of his coworkers and maims other ones. And he still sort of lives in that, and he's created this narrative for himself. And he senses, and I love that. And he also senses like, oh, I know how to work with the unknown. Like this monkey was killing his coworkers and beating his coworkers, but didn't attack him. And actually, he says at one point, like, we created the explosion fist bump. And right before the chimpanzee is shot and killed, there's this very terrifying moment where we think the chimpanzee is going to like grab young Ricky, but they give a fist bump. And I thought that the suspense,
what happened immediately after that?
He gets shot. But immediately after that, Ricky thinks he can train this UFO and take films of it and sort of sell it and earn back his fame. But so what he's doing is he's buying all the horses from OJ and then feeding them to this beast, this monster, which, by the way, he tells OJ, he's like, yeah, you can buy him back.
Yeah.
He knows he's not going to get him.
He can't get him back because they're gone.
Ricky is sort of the villain.
Ricky kind of is the villain now that I sit here and think about it. So going back to my question about the movie as a whole, right? If you're
I loved it. And I loved specifically Ricky's arc was what really... Ricky makes the film for me. I didn't really care so much about the Haywoods. The brother and sister relationship was cute. Fine, Kiki Palmer does her Kiki Palmer things. Like, she's high energy, she's sarcastic, she's a little bit manic. I really enjoyed that part of her. But I think the way Ricky played with the brother and sister and the way he thought he could get away with training this monster because he got away with working with a murderous chimpanzee, I think that's what makes the film for me.
So I would say this, because I know there's been some back and forth about Nope, like I've already seen. Not a whole bunch of but people discussing a new film. For me, the movie definitely had some lulls. I know that Jordan Peele is very intentional with everything he does. But in true Jordan Peele movie form, I think this movie needs another viewing. But the pacing for me was so slow in some areas that I don't want to watch it again. Does that make sense?
There was too much horseback riding.
There was a lot of just like, why... I was like, some of these scenes could have been cut. The movie was long, too. Can you look up the running time of the movie? The movie felt very long. And I remember thinking, like... We've gone like 30 to 40 minutes without some suspense. Like
2 hours and 11 minutes, yeah.
And so the movie kind of it doesn't follow this like bell curve, right? It kind of follows this like it's low. It's almost like it starts high, and then at some point the movie kind of dips down. And for me, that dip down stayed for about 30 to 40 minutes. And then at one part, I was like, "Oh, this movie is going fast." You remember, like near the end, once we figured out like how to game this alien, the movie is like nonstop. But even when they were hatching the plan to figure out how to defeat the alien, I remember being very confused. I was like, I don't get these car lot things, and I don't get this, and I get it. I don't have to understand everything, but I feel like Us did that same thing. We're gonna watch Us, the movie, as well, but there were some things I'm like, I don't want to read a think piece after every time I read a movie. So I think a couple of times he could have gave the audience had to work really hard. And I would consider myself as like, a mid-level intelligence person. But at some areas, the audience had to work really, really hard to understand what was happening. Or at one point, so there's this other character. Please look up his name, Ben. There's this other character who is the like tech guy at this like what you could liken to like a Best Buy, and he actually becomes sort of a secondary character in the story as well. And he sets up all their equipment, and he kind of already suspects like, oh, y'all got some UFO shit going on. Like I know this kind of equipment. I know the questions that y'all are asking. So he sets up his technology to
Angel.
run. Angel is his real name or his movie name?
His movie name. Yep.
Angel sets up this technology to so that the Haywoods can like have video footage of what's going on.
And
so
then
at one
sell
part,
it to save their ranch. That's
and
sort of
sell it to save the ranch. So they too kind of want to exploit what's happening at their home just because like they're running out of money. So at one point, Angel's character is like playing the footage and he's like, you see it? And then OJ's like, yep, I see it. And I'm like, but as an audience, we don't see it yet. So like, there were one or two scenes where like I think there's this like time lapse of a full day and this cloud is like not moving. But as an audience member, you don't see that the first look. And I remember thinking, surely they're going to show this scene again now that we as the audience know what we're looking for. And they didn't. So I'm kind of like, you kind of want to, you want your audience to do some work, but in some areas, I think I was like, this is taking a little too much work for not that great of a payout. And so I'm not damning the movie in any way, but or at one point, okay, like the movie's called Nope, right? So obviously one or two scenes they're like nope, and it's funny. But by the 10th time they're saying nope, I'm like, okay, we get it. And then Ben made a connection about the movie's title. Go ahead.
Well, yeah,
potentially.
Let me go through a couple things. So the movie starts off as a mystery, and then by the end of it, it turns into like a monster capture film, where in this case, they're not going to physically capture the monster. They're going to capture it on film and sell it. This monster, however, sort of disrupts all electricity, cuts off all power. So the only way that they can capture this monster is through using physical, actual reels. And those physical, actual
like a
reels,
non-electric camera,
analog.
School.
They call them analog instead of digital. And the way you do that is you roll them, like rolling. Yeah, that's where that comes from. But what you're actually putting inside the film, they're called what? The
film strips.
Yes, and the film strips, another term for film strips, are negative. And another word for negative.
Put in, is it? They're called negatives that you put in?
Yeah. So what you get out of it is called the negative.
Which I remember those. Like, remember when, as a kid, you would like hold them up to the sun and you could like, not the sun, but any sort of light and you would see those.
Yeah.
Like,
and another word for negative is? Nope. And so he started dealing with this idea of analog and the way you capture the perfect picture, right? And so it becomes almost a movie about capturing films and getting that perfect shot. I want to talk about the car lot because when they move into a monster capturing film, they sort of hatch this plan. And the plan is to know how the creature is moving because it hides in the clouds. And the only way they know how it's moving is when it turns off the power.
No, I know that now. I figured that out eventually with I was like, oh, this is how. Yeah. But as it was happening, it felt very like...
I think they wanted to create mystery.
They did. It. You know what I likened it to? I likened it to like, the scenes where like Kevin McAllister in Home Alone is like setting up the traps. And you're like, I wonder what this trap is going to do in this trap. And then once you see him in action, you're like, oh, I see now where he's going with this. But I remember like...
That's exactly what it is. Yeah, that's a great comparison.
I was kind of like, I'm not understanding. And I get that I shouldn't understand where it's going. But even the connection between like the chimpanzee and the UFO, honestly, for me, is only coming together in this discussion. And I remember thinking like...
Because it's not a UFO. You have to like
It's an animal. It's an organism.
Animal.
It's a living organism.
Exactly.
But it is only the practice of watching science fiction and fantasy with you and having those discussions that I understand it. It's a compliment to you, but it's kind of a knock at Jordan Peele because I don't know. There's something that, like, for me, Jordan Peele's best movie was Get Out. Ben disagrees. But Get Out did the perfect balance of, like, appealing to like intelligent people and like appealing to people that maybe don't watch the horror genre as much. I don't want to call people like not intelligent, like are not well versed in those horror tropes. So it was the perfect balance of like, like here's the deep think piece behind these shirts that they wore in this scene, or a buck on the wall is what black men used to be called. Like here are those like really nice nuggets of historical information. And here's like Lorel being like, TS motherfucking A, I got your back. It was the perfect blend of like all things that we love in like a good black movie and a fantastical movie. So I think for me, Nope was, it's like if you wanted us to catch these really amazing nuggets and these lulls, you got to just get rid of some of that fodder. Yeah, because I'm not going to catch it if this scene is like 20 minutes, like reduce that so we can actually listen to what's happening. They were just like some long shots, tons of dialogue. And I was like, what am I supposed to extrapolate from this? Like my attention span honestly can't hang in there for 2 hours and 11 minutes, you know? But Get Out was like, boom. Okay, a lull. Bow. Okay, a lull. And I feel like Nope was like nothing, 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 nothing. Go, 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 go. Yeah. And it just, something was missed there.
The suspense is essentially all lost once you discover that the UFO is a living organism. For me, the suspense was lost, and then it became more of like a mystery. How are they going to defeat this thing? And
there were a few jump scares.
Yeah.
But they weren't really contributing to the plot. Like the little alien kids in the barn. Yeah. I'm like, big picture, how did that really contribute to the plot? Like,
well, it showed that so Ricky has 3 kids. They're sort of asshole kids, and they dress up as these little aliens because we find out later they're sort of selling the idea that there is an alien coming visiting their little park. Mm-hmm. And so they go to like mess around with the Haywoods farm. And so I think that created...
But you didn't make that connection between those little alien suits and that was Ricky's doing until... Like, that was his merchandising and his costuming until, like, way later. So I remember, you know, it's kind of like if you just walked into a classroom and a teacher started talking and you're kind of like, I want to listen, but I don't know what I'm listening for. But if you walked into a room and somebody's like, today you're learning calculus, we're starting here. So there were a couple of, and I know a movie doesn't work like that, but there are a couple of establishing shots and establishing dialogue that would have got us there as an audience. But after that little scene where these kids like played a prank on OJ, I remember thinking like, yes, that scared me, but what was all that for? And this is a scene that's like in the trailer for this movie.
Yeah.
Like I feel like there could have, now there were some great creature feature things with like all of this blood pouring on the house. Like those scenes were like, this is chilling. Visually, the creature, the UFO, the living organism, visually stunning. I remember like that taking my breath away. I remember some sensory experiences the first time we see humans sucked up into the organism. Like it was so suffocating and claustrophobic that it really captivated me. Like I feel like I physically could not breathe during that scene. So there are some things that Jordan Peele did masterfully, but I don't know. I'm talking a lot.
No, totally. I think those are fair criticisms. One of the funniest things about this is that they hire this famous filmmaker to sort of help them get this analog shot. And while they're trying to get this shot, someone from TMZ shows up to also get the shot.
And I feel like she was like, get out of here, TMZ. I thought that was like the insult.
No,
or was he actually?
No,
from
he's
TMZ?
Actually like.
I think we should watch it back.
Yeah, okay. I think this is. They're trying to get this shot and make money. And at one point, because this monster turns off electricity, the guy is riding his electric motorcycle and gets thrown off of it and is like body is like distorted and twisted, and he's like, get my camera. Like all he cares is about is like that one.
Very Gen Z energy.
Very much, yeah. And I thought, he was making this commentary of like, let's get a selfie. Like, who cares about whether we live or die? And it made me think of there are many experiences where people have fallen off cliffs trying to get a certain kind of picture.
Heck yeah.
Or this one guy, he's known for like making these videos, free climbing these these towers, and he fell 400 feet, died. Just super sad, and people doing ridiculous things for that YouTube attention type of thing. And I think he was playing with that.
I was talking to my friends about that yesterday because obviously we are on the internet a lot, that when I'm in front of them, like face to face, like people I really love and care about, my phone is away. Like I remember my sister being like, I called you like 3 times. Like, what are you doing? I was like, I'm just talking to the people in my face, because we are on our phones so much, and like it mostly just needs to be away when we're not. And you see it when you go out. You'll see people like be like like in the club, and then immediately looking at it and scrolling. It's just like, just because at this point we do this. We're like, let's record while we're out here, and then like let's put it away. We'll post it later. We'll whatever. But it's hard. It's at this point it's something that you have to like consciously talk about, because you will be like, I love watching videos on the internet, and then people are like, why are you recording instead of helping the person? I was like, because that's what motherfuckers do.
Because that's
these
how
days.
you get attention.
I think I say all that to say, like, I enjoyed Nope. Do I feel like I should watch it again? It just didn't compel me enough to give it a second viewing. I know that sounds pretty shitty, because I love Jordan Peele and I'm excited for him to continue to create and continue to make, but like he really hit a sweet spot when Get Out first came out. So that Get Out for me is still my favorite Jordan Peele film, and I would probably give Nope about a 7 or an 8.
It's, I think, one of the best UFO movies I've seen.
Yes, I think like
enjoyed it.
cinematics were great, and cinematics. What am I trying to say? Cinematography,
camera.
like just seeing that wide valley shots, and I really loved the older film director, because even he, like, we're laughing at the TMZ guy, but the old film director also died trying to get the shot.
Antlers Holst, I think is his name.
Yeah, he had a very low
yeah,
voice, one-eyed,
and he does get the shot. We see the shot that he gets, but he dies.
But Kiki also got the shot in that little picture taker. Kiki did great. Daniel Kaluuya, he was fine.
He suffers from anxiety.
He does. He played his character well, but I don't know. Not my absolute fave, but I'm super glad that we went to see it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Angel was the unsung hero of the movie. Remember when he like screamed out?
Yeah, he's going through it. He like just broke up with his girlfriend who hit a pilot episode for the CW. I mean, there's these little like funny things that just ground you in the real world that it's completely worth seeing. And also watching the movie theater, because at one point the creature sort of in the way that a dog's fur stands up when it's getting agitated, this creature's body sort of spreads out in this very stunning, incredible way. Yes. Check it out. Totally worth seeing. Absolutely beautiful.
I like those shots. Really did remind me of like Arrival and Annihilation. I was like, oh, he's in his bag with the actual CGI of it all. Like that stuff was absolutely beautiful.
So I'm gonna warp it up.
Ben, I'm sorry, Ben. With that being said, Ben, I think we've said all that needs to be said. So why don't you warp up the show?
Yeah, in conclusion, watch it in the movie theater. Wear a mask if you go. So you're in a crowded space, so it's probably better if you wore a mask. Totally worth seeing. And yeah, that's it.
Thanks, Ben. Thank you so much for listening to another episode of the Sci-Fi Sci Podcast. We will be watching Jordan Peele's Us next week for episode 96, because we're just going to stay in the Jordan Peele verse so we can discuss all of these films, because he really is an incredible director. So please watch the movie Us if you haven't seen it, and we will see y'all next week for the show. Bye, y'all.